Energy cannot be created or destroyed, therefore it is transferred from one location to another. This occurs in coastal processes where the system is trying to create a balance of energy. The above photos are one example of how energy is transferred along the shoreline. A groin is an erosion control structure that runs perpendicular to the shore as seen in the top photo. Groins were previously thought to be an efficient erosion control structure as they reduce wave energy and collect sediment. We now know that this technique is destructive to areas downdrift of these structures. The red circle marks a reference point where the last groin structure is placed. After this sequence of structures, major erosion has occurred to the south. Since these groins reduced wave energy and increased sediment deposition, the areas downdrift are starved of sand and are trying to stay in balance by increasing wave energy and eroding sediment for transport. Longshore drift is the transport of sediment parallel to the shoreline and it is dependent on the dominant wind direction. The direction of longshore drift on our Lake Huron shoreline is from north to south. This means that sediment will erode and deposit in this direction and that changes to the shoreline in one area will affect properties to the south. This photo is of our Lake Huron bluffs. These bluffs are natural source areas that are constantly eroding. Sediment from these bluffs is then carried downdrift to create beaches. When looking at erosional processes on the shoreline, it is important to take all the influencing elements into account, even things you cannot see. One area of erosion that is visible is wave action at the bottom of the bluff. Another area of erosion is from the gully. A gully is a channel of water that eventually leads to the lake. Once the gully reaches its outlet, there is an area of instability on either side of the bluff. One influence that is less obvious is from overland flow. Overland flow is the movement of excess water in a downward slope towards a water body. This results in erosion from the landward side of the bluff. The combination of these different erosion types cause many areas of instability along the bluff and gully. Groundwater seepage is another influence that is not visible. Groundwater seepage is the area of water that collects underground and fills any spaces in the soil. Extra weight added by this water makes the area more susceptible to failures. Saturation also changes the bluff stability. Bluffs consist of mostly clay, which is very hard when dry. When it becomes saturated, however, it can flow, causing landslide-type failures. Nearshore erosion is the erosion on the lake bed. This diagram represents high water levels, for example in the 1980s. In this photo, the wave energy is dissipated as it moves landwards, resulting in less intense nearshore erosion. Note in this photo that the water is not reaching the shoreline structures. When water levels drop, for example in the late 1990s, people perceive that erosion is no longer an issue because erosion isn't occurring at the bottom of the bluff. Nearshore erosion is actually intensified during these low lake levels because the energy is highly concentrated in the areas directly offshore, instead of dissipating its energy along the gentle slope of the bluff. In the 2000s, there was a long 14-year period of low water levels where this nearshore erosion was occurring. It is important to note that even though it is not visible, erosion is still occurring during these low lake levels. Once water levels increase again, for example, with the current conditions in 2019, the waves have more energy due to this increased depth of the lakebed. Waves can therefore reach greater distances onshore, including the potential to reach structures. You can then expect erosion rates to increase due to the reflection of waves off these structures. This nearshore erosion is the reason that water could reach structures in 2019 that weren't impacted during previous high water levels in 1986. Another type of erosion is called rotational failure. These failures are the sliding of material along a curved surface. This picture shows wave action eroding the bottom of the bluff. The red area is a plug that is holding up the top of the bluff and dissipates energy along a more gentle slope. Over time, the plug will erode completely. Since there is nothing holding the top of the bluff in place, the area is highly unstable. The sharp angle at the bottom of the bluff also increases its susceptibility to failures because it allows waves to hit the bottom of the bluff straight on with increased energy. A failure then occurs in the unstable area of the bluff. The amount eroded at the bottom of the bluff can be used to estimate the failure at the top. For example, if 10 meters erodes from the bottom, 10 meters will fail at the top. These failures may also occur in smaller sequential events. In our watershed, 760 properties have at least one structure located in an unstable area. Because we've been experiencing low lake levels for several years, we haven't seen a lot of erosion at the bottom of the bluffs. However, the low lake levels have created significant lakebed erosion. This means that as the lake levels increase, the wave action will have an increased force which may cause significant lake effect recession in a short period of time. These photos are from a rotational failure that occurred in 1987 after the high lake levels in 1986. During these failures, the top of the bluff can drop several feet, which is concerning for structures that are placed close to the bluff's edge. This photo is from May in 2019. This bluff experienced a large failure from a sliding event. These events are more common in the spring due to thawing of the clay, or in the fall from a combination of high ground saturation and storm activity. This photo shows the changes to a property in 2017 versus 2019. In just 2 years, the bluff has slumped, resulting in some loss of stairs and fallen vegetation. The primary structure in this photo is also very close to the edge of the bluff. Maitland Conservation recommends moving these structures back from the edge if possible to increase the landowner's safety. This comparison is only within a 2-month period. Due to the failures, 2 structures on the slope of the bluff have been lost. The best recommendation is to move structures away from these areas as they add weight to the bluff, which increases the chances for failures. Vegetation on the bluff is a great way to reduce the chances of failures. Although vegetation cannot prevent failures from occurring, it can slow down the process by taking water out of the ground through evapotranspiration. This takes weight out of the groundwater seepage area and allows for roots to hold the soils in place. If you are concerned about a failure occurring on your property, it is important to look for cracks running parallel to the bluff's edge. They do not always occur before a failure. However, if they are found, you should stay away from this area and call Maitland Valley Conservation, as the land west of the crack will fail. Another thing you can do to reduce the chances of a failure occurring is to divert stormwater to reduce the impact from overland flow. If you are concerned about erosion or have questions, you can call Maitland Valley Conservation Authority to set up a site visit and get more detailed information about erosion on your property. Recent storm damage has many landowners thinking about possible shore protection in their area. It is important to remember that attempts at shore protection, such as breakwaters, revetments, and groins, are expensive, disrupt natural shoreline processes, and may cause problems for your neighbors. Natural processes can impact the function of shore protection structures. For example, freeze-thaw, expansion, and cracking of armor stone can greatly shorten the usefulness of riprap revetments. Lakebed erosion undermines the foundation of shore protection structures and subjects these structures to greater wave energy during storms. Lakebed erosion is one cause of the relatively short lives of many shore protection structures. If you're considering shore protection work, please note landowners must hire a coastal engineer to design the shore protection and to determine if the work will impact neighboring properties. Existing walls may be replaced providing the proposed work is similar in size and footprint. However, an engineer will still be required to provide input on the design and installation of the replacement wall. The replacement of groins will not be permitted. Groins intercept sand and degrade natural beaches. Prior to undertaking any work, contact your municipality and Maitland Conservation to ensure your plans meet development policies. In some areas, a public lands permit from the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry may be required.